Give it a second. All right, it looks like we are good to go. Hopefully, those of you who are watching, give us a quick little wave, a little hi out there in LinkedIn land so that we can see that everyone is there. We have a little bit more tech this time than our normal webinars because we are going to be sharing our screen with you so that you can actually see the report, some of the charts and graphs and things like that. So let me go ahead and share that so we get started as everyone is popping in. All right. And all right, with a little luck, you all are now seeing the PowerPoint. We'll give it just a second to pull up on LinkedIn. So welcome. This is exciting. It is our big data reveal to everyone today. As promised, at the end of this webinar, you all will be getting the link and it'll be going live on all of our socials. So we're excited to be able to present these results to you. Quick agenda. We're just going to be going through a handful of background things, methodology, introductions of ourselves, talk a little bit about the participants, and then Jenna and Renee in particular will be sharing a lot of the results with you. So, introduction wise, I'm Tricia Meyer. I am the executive director of the Performance Marketing Association. I'm more the pulling things together person. The Measurements and Insights Council are the ones who put all of this together, who come up with all of the questions, who come up with the methodology, all of those kinds of things. And I'm just kind of the transcriber and the person that puts it all together for all of the rest of you. First, I'd like to introduce our chair, Jenna.
Great. Thanks, Tricia. You're also being quite humble. We could not be here without you. So I wanted to reiterate that before we get started. So, hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Jenna Walsh, and I've been doing business intelligence at Awin for the last 8 years. I've also had the pleasure of being part of the beautiful PMA community since 2022 when I joined the Measurements and Insights Council and took the role of chair. Today, I'm excited to share some of our key findings from our U.S. Performance Marketing Industry Survey and provide commentary on the trends, shifts, and insights emerging from this year's results. And I'll hand it over to Renee.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Renee Christensen. I'm a director on the affiliate and influencer team at Right Side Up. If you're not familiar with Right Side Up, we match brands with top-tier affiliate and influencer consultants, most of whom are full-time in the space or moonlighting on the side. I've been in the affiliate industry for over 20 years at this point, and with most of my time spent on the agency side. And I had the pleasure of working with both Jenna and Tricia in 2024 to share the brand survey insight. So really excited to jump in and share some updated numbers with everybody today.
Thanks, ladies. And yes, it is great to have the continuity that Jen and Ray were both authors of the last report that we did. So to be able to take what we learned in that last one and apply it to this one. So those of you who are watching, if you don't mind introducing yourselves in the comments, we'll be keeping an eye on those LinkedIn comments to be able to take your questions. Give us a quick introduction of who you are, where you're from, and what side of all of this you're on. Are you looking to get some of the brand and agency insights? Are you a publisher who's looking for insights? I will say as a publisher, I actually always get a lot of these reports to kind of see what my competitors are doing. Are you on the network side and wondering what's going on kind of across the industry? So just give us a quick introduction in the LinkedIn comments. Let us know who you are, where you're from, and kind of what you're looking for out of all of this today. So quick background and methodology on how we did this, conducted by the PMA Measurements and Insights Council, which we have Jenna and Renee, and also probably between 5 and 10 other members of the Performance Marketing Association that kind of run the gamut. Basically, all of us who are into numbers, data, anything that can be measured within the industry is under their purview. And this is a follow-up to a 2024 study that we did. So every 3 years, the PMA does a really big industry survey, and that is looking for actual data from the network. So that is something that we do, that we pay consultants to do that for us. It's all done through someone else on secured servers and things like that. It costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. It's all real data, so we don't do that as frequently. So the Measurements Council decided to come up with this study instead a couple of years ago as kind of an in-between in the years where we're not doing that bigger study. So this study is a little bit smaller in terms of the scope because it is self-reported. We conducted it between April 15th and June 15th of this year. And we asked each of the people who responded to give their answers based on the previous 12 months of data. So the majority of this data is going to be 2025. Some of it's going to be a little bit into 2026, but basically a rolling 12 months. As I mentioned, it is self-reported, which does make this a little bit different than the other study that we do, which is coming from the networks getting all of the data. This is self-reported. And I will just admit that we know there is some amount of bias in these results just because of who takes PMA surveys. I find that people who take PMA surveys tend to be people who are kind of more locked into the industry. There are people who are attending webinars like all of you. There are people who are reading white papers, who are looking at what the networks send out, who are trying to be on, the cutting edge of technology and things like that. So as we're kind of going through some of these results, some of the numbers we might find just a little bit biased. We couldn't say that this is industry wide. We can say this is with absolute certainty. But of the people who we know that follow the PMA, that pay attention to the newsletters, the webinars that come out of the networks and the agencies and things like that, we do feel like the numbers are pretty good because we had over 150 responses. And that also, those responses really ranged across big agencies, little agencies, solos, networks, different brands, different types of brands. You'll see in some of the other charts that we'll be showing you today, and then also in the full report itself, which you get at the very end, remember. But just looking through, I was the only one that had access to all of that. It was all done through a spreadsheet or through a form, and I was the only one that saw all of that. It was just the findings of that then went to the council for them to see. So we asked required and optional questions. And one of the exciting things about the report this year was that almost everyone answered the optional questions. So when we ran it 2 years ago, we had more responses, but fewer of the people actually responded to everything that we asked. And this year, I think almost every respondent answered every single question. So that was really excited to see the participation there. And thank you to all of you who gave us all this data. I think that you're going to be really happy when you see the results of it. One final note there is that although it could be done anonymously, 81% of the responses actually included identifying email addresses. So we double checked IP addresses for duplication where we didn't have the email addresses, but for the most part, by and large, most of the people who took the survey gave us their email addresses. So really quick, just a little bit of background about the participants. In terms of the responses that we had, the vast majority were from agencies. That's to be expected. The PMA is made up of a lot more agencies than it is brands. So we did have some of the networks were kind enough to send out emails for us to catch some of the brands. Not everyone was in the PMA that took the survey. In fact, over half, I think, of the companies that took the survey are not actually in the PMA. So this isn't just PMA members. It was also a lot of people that we just picked up through social media, through the networks who were sending out emails for us to try to capture others. But it was 72.58% agencies that responded, 16.5% were brands, and 11% were other. And by other, just looking through the email addresses, a lot of those were programs that were managed by some of the different networks or companies like that. And the primary business sector, not surprising. This very much correlates with our last report and also with the industry survey. About 80% of the responses categorize themselves, their primary business sector, as being retail. And that lines up, probably with all expectations. And again, with our industry survey where we're getting the actual data from the networks. We do have a further breakdown in the report itself about retail because that, made up 80%. So we'd like to see what that 80% was. So there is another breakdown of there. But I will say that the top three categories were the same in the last report as they were this time. And those were clothing and accessories, beauty, health and wellness, and the home and garden. And between those three, they made up about 67% of the total retail responses as well. So now for the really fun stuff, the data slicing and dicing, I'm going to turn it over first to Jenna.
Perfect. Thanks, Tricia. So now for some of the results. So let's begin by looking at how affiliate programs are being managed. The majority of the respondents, around 80%, continue to operate their affiliate program on a single platform. However, one of the most interesting shifts from our last survey is an increase in organizations managing multiple affiliate platforms. In 2024, fewer than 1 in 10 respondents reported using multiple platforms, whereas this year, that figure has more than doubled to almost 20%. While most businesses still favor the simplicity of a single platform, this trend suggests that affiliate programs are becoming more increasingly sophisticated. As program matures, it's not uncommon to see brands expanding into new regions, working with specialized exclusive partners, or, like I said earlier, adopting multiple platforms to support different commercial or operational needs. So while single platform management remains the norm, we're beginning to see some evidence of the affiliate ecosystem becoming more diverse and complex. So that naturally leads us to our next question. Tricia, if you can move the slide. Thank you so much. So, who are the programs behind these results? One of the most notable shifts that affiliate marketing continues to attract new players. Almost 60% of these respondents launched their affiliate program in 2020 or later, compared to 37% in our last survey. So at the same time, the proportion of programs that launched between 2011 and 2019 has fallen considerably. What this tells us is that our benchmark is increasingly reflecting a newer generation of affiliate programs. These businesses are likely still growing their affiliate ecosystems, refining their commission strategies, and investing in technologies that will support their long-term success. It's really an encouraging sign that affiliate marketing continues to attract investment and remains a growing channel for brands. Keep this in mind as we go through the results in further detail today. Next, let's look at the publisher approval figures. So off the bat, we recognize the majority of advertisers, almost 40%, have 151 to 300 approved publishers in their program. When comparing this to the 2024 results, these tiers made up only 18%, whereas almost 40% had over 500 plus approved publishers. So at a first glance, it appears that many programs may have fewer approved publishers than we saw in the last survey. However, it's important to interpret that result in the context of the slide before this. So nearly 60% of the respondents launched their affiliate program 2020 or later. So in other words, this may not indicate that publisher networks are shrinking, but rather it may reflect a greater representation of newer programs that are still in the process of building and scaling their partner base. From a maturity perspective, that makes sense. So the more useful question for this survey becomes how many of those publishers are actually contributing to those meaningful results. So if you can go to the next slide, Tricia. So when we look at the sale active publishers, almost 2/3 of respondents have fewer than 50 publishers generating conversions during this year. This reinforces something many affiliate managers already know. Success isn't about building the bigger publisher list, it's about building an engaged publisher base. The focus increasingly appears to be shifting from recruitment to activation. Rather than asking how many publishers do we have, leading programs are asking how many publishers are genuinely contributing to revenue and what value do they bring. That's a much healthier metric for measuring program performance. It is worth mentioning here that there is additional data in the full survey results around click active publishers as well. When we are asked where advertisers are investing their budgets, another interesting trend emerged. Content publishers now represent over a quarter of respondents' highest spend, while investment in social and influencer partners has more than tripled compared to the last survey. At the same time, spend allocated to coupon and voucher publishers has reduced. This suggests that many advertisers are broadening their investment beyond the traditional conversion-focused partners and placing greater emphasis on publishers who influence customers' journeys earlier in the journey path. This upper funnel strategy has been happening for a while now, and the survey results continue to reinforce that it's still a relevant strategy today and is continuing to strengthen. Keeping the focus on attribution, we have asked new questions in the survey around how we measure success. Most respondents, around 61%, still rely heavily on their affiliate platform reporting as their main source of truth for measuring channel performance, while roughly a third use internal analytics or BI tools. This result reinforces the continued dependency on affiliate platforms as the central measurement source for many brands. However, as affiliate strategies expand beyond last click conversions, the industry faces a challenge. Ensuring measurement frameworks evolve alongside the types of partnership brands are investing in. This leads us to the next question around attribution models, specifically how brands are determining credit and measuring the impact of their affiliate partners. When it comes to commission allocation, last click attribution continues to dominate, with over 70% of respondents using it to determine which affiliate receives commission. That raises an interesting contradiction. Brands are investing more heavily in content, yet the vast majority continue to rely on last click attribution to measure performance and determine commission. While attribution models tell us how credit is assigned, they don't always capture the full range of the ways brands incentivize and reward strategic partners. An interesting area to explore, perhaps in future studies, would be understanding how commission investment is allocated through alternative structures such as bonuses, flat fees, or program incentives, and how these approaches are being used to support different publisher strategies. Now I'll hand it over to Renee to discuss some more results.
Cool. Thanks, Jenna. Great. So we are going to first jump into DSPs, which are downloadable software publishers. That's PMA's term for toolbars, bookmarklets, and browser extensions in the affiliate space. So the data here shows a real shift in sentiment. In this year's survey, almost 60%, 68%, I should say, of respondents say they allow toolbars or extensions into their program, while 32% say no. And that no number is so much bigger than it used to be. In our 2024 survey, it was just 12%. So we've essentially gone from about 1 in 10 brands saying no to nearly 1 in 3. And that's a pretty big shift. And I think a lot of that tracks back to just a lot of public conversations over the last year, a couple years, I should say, with the Honey browser extension, even just via in the most recent week. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole today. But I mean, I think the biggest takeaway here is that brands are getting noticeably more cautious about this publisher type, and it's definitely showing in these numbers. Next slide. Perfect. And then subnetwork. So first of all, I'll say if you're not familiar with subnetworks, there's a lot of information on the PMA website about subnetwork. So definitely take a peek there if you want to learn more. But essentially this year, 87% of the respondents say yes, they do allow subnetworks in their program, with only 12% saying no. And based on that data, you would think subnetworks are really popular, right? But it's actually down from 2024, where 96% said that they did allow them. So we're seeing close to a 9-point drop here. And I think this just lines up with what we saw on the spend side too, that Jenna covered, where subnetworks as a top spend category actually fell from 13% down to 4%. So just kind of looking at all of these different shifts that we've seen over the last few years, you can definitely tell that brands are being more cautious about the partners that they're working with and having the transparency and knowing, who they are and if they can go deeper in the relationship with them. Next slide. Great. So shifting gears to AI, hot topic over the last year or two. The question here that we asked in the survey was simple. Essentially, are you intentionally prioritizing content partnerships likely to influence AI-generated search results as part of your affiliate strategy? So thinking ChatGPT, AI overviews, that kind of thing. Almost 60% said yes, that they are experimenting with AI visibility and layering it into their affiliate strategy for their program. When we dug a little bit deeper into the data, we actually found that agencies are ahead of brands here, with almost 70% saying that they're prioritizing AI visibility strategy for the brands that they manage. And then going like a little bit deeper there as well, clothing and accessories, actually the respondents there were nearly at 80% leaning into AI visibility. And I think that goes to the competitive nature of some verticals where we're going to see more leaning in versus others. Next slide. Cool. So if brands are prioritizing AI visibility, what are they actually measuring? And this is where it gets a little interesting because the survey shows that our industry is still figuring out its own metrics when it comes to AI. It's still so new and quite hard to measure in some cases. So, one dominant thing that's measured by far is brand mentions and share of voice within AI answers, with almost 87% of respondents tracking to that. Closely followed by citation rate, which is often, which is how sites are linked within AI responses, and that comes in at 54%. Measuring referral traffic and LLM platforms, with the halo effect on branded search, that's at 50%. And then lastly, brand sentiment, which is whether the brand is framed positively or negatively, trails at just 26%. So what this data tells us is that most brands are still in the just be visible phase rather than worrying about how favorably they're being represented. And then we also notice within the data too that brands and agencies are also looking at different metrics. So agencies skew more top of funnel, looking more at brand mentions and halo effect, whereas brands are focusing more on tracking the citation rate and the brand sentiment. So definitely interesting to see the split there. So no matter what seat you're in, you're probably prioritizing different parts of AR measurement, but our early findings are that it's just still so early to really tell what the key driver is for measurement. Perfect. Okay, so that wraps up our survey data. There's a lot more in the report that we hope everyone downloads, but we'll wrap up with some takeaways. So if you're going to take away anything from this webinar and from the report, it's definitely these six things. So one, AI has officially entered the affiliate strategy, and we're not talking about early experimentation anymore, with 60% of programs really prioritizing partnerships to influence AI search results. Definitely a big change. Number two, affiliate programs are getting younger and more complex. So we're seeing nearly 60% of programs launched in 2020 or later, and the number of brands running multiple platforms more than doubling. Three, quality over quantity. We definitely saw that with the spend numbers and the DSPs and subnetworks, where the publisher counts are trending down, but active publisher counts are staying concentrated. So brands are definitely trying to be more selective in who they improve into their program. Number four, publisher mix itself is changing. Cashback and loyalty are now dominant revenue drivers, with technology solutions having grown significantly as well as content influencers, with coupon kind of taking a little bit of a dip. Number five, and I think this is probably the biggest gap in the study, is that measurement hasn't caught up. Even with all the investment in moving up the funnel, almost 80% of programs still using last click for attribution. So it's interesting to see that a lot of the initiatives that brands are focusing on, we're not technically reporting or rewarding on. And then lastly, programs are just being more selective, really just leaning into the partners that align with their brand and can drive quality revenue. So that wraps up takeaways. I'll pass it back to Tricia.
All right. So I haven't seen any questions come in through the LinkedIn yet, which is interesting because we did a little preview webinar yesterday for the people who contributed the responses, and they actually had a lot of questions for us. So if you do have questions, feel free to drop them into the LinkedIn, or if you are PMA members within the PMA Slack channel. I'll be giving the link here on this last slide, and I'll also drop it into the LinkedIn page as I'm doing that so everyone can download. But first, I just want to thank Jenna and Renee for all of their work on this. We were trying to balance the vacation schedules for all three of us over the last 3 weeks. Everyone was coming and going and trying to get this report written together and the PowerPoint together over the three of us. So I'm so thankful to them for all of the work that they put in. And then also to all of our industry champions, because even though this was not something that we outsourced in terms of payments, obviously something that internally we had to do a lot with design and gathering the data and AI to help us with the report and all those kinds of things. So it's those industry champions within the PMA that fund all of these kinds of things for us. So a big thank you to them. And then the very last slide, what you all have been waiting for so patiently, and I see the numbers like growing on the live stream, is to get that link to be able to download it. When you go to that page, there's a place where it just says add to cart, and to add the cart, it is just putting in your email address, which hopefully you won't mind if you're not already on the PMA newsletter list, that you'll be added to the newsletter list in exchange for downloading the entire report. And we have a few things that we will probably be following up with in the next couple of weeks, just out of some great questions that we got yesterday from that webinar, of things that they wanted us to kind of slice and dice the data in a few more ways after they saw it presented. So keep an eye on the PMA website. If you're PMA members, keep an eye on the Slack, because we will be putting together a little bit more analysis, even more than what is already in the survey, and we'll be providing that to everyone else as well. So thank you again so much, everyone. You're the first people that are getting to see this outside of Jenna and Renee, that are getting to see the entire report. So we hope that you enjoy it. If you have questions about it, you can message me to see Tricia at thepma.org, or if you're a PMA member, just jump into Slack and drop me a line. Thank you to the entire Measurements and Insights Council for all of their hard work on this and getting it over the finish line. These things take a lot more people than they seem like they will take to accomplish them, and a lot more time. So, fantastic. If no one has any other questions, we'll close out, give everybody a little bit of extra time back in their day. Time to go download that report right now, and then let us know what you think. Right.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.